Thank you, Chair Roth and members of the committee. I'm Jason Sroufe. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Wellspring Lutheran Services, and we're one of the member organizations of the Michigan Children Federation, Michigan Federation for Children and Families. And Wellspring has been around since 1893. It's a long time, serving families in need, and started from Lutheran churches in the areas of Monroe and Bay City, who really saw needs in their families or needs in their communities and said, how do we support that? And so I'm thankful to be able to talk a little bit about how we support families throughout the state of Michigan and how our fantastic staff and foster parents are a part of that. So one of the things about Wellspring, I've been here for nearly 20 years. This is my 20th year. I started as what was called a Families First worker. We employ a lot of Families First workers. In fact, we're the largest provider of what are called family preservation services in the state of Michigan. And these family preservation services are the services that come into place really to ensure that children are safe when there's been some allegation of child abuse or neglect. And so you'll see referrals that come from school teachers or concerned neighbors or relatives or hospitals or doctors where there's a potential incident of child abuse and neglect. And then CPS will do an investigation, and they will oftentimes call our family preservation services to come in and work with the families to try and ensure the first thing is that the kids are safe and that the adults in the home are also safe. And this happens in all 83 counties. We have these services. They are vital to ensuring that the most needy families in our communities are safe and that the children, in particular the vulnerable ones, the children there are safe. And there are some really unique features to these services. The first is they're home-based, which means our workers are going into the family's home and providing some sort of service, whether it's kind of crisis counseling or teaching or a concrete support in that family's home. And in our rural counties, we have contracts that can be up to 5-8 counties. So we can have workers driving from Benzie County and then to Wexford County later in the day, and they're going into families' homes to make sure these kids are safe. All with the goal to support those parents to ensure, okay, what are the strengths already in the family? This is the second thing about family preservation, is we're strength-based, knowing if we're gonna work with a family for a short time, we can't just say, what's all your problems and how do we fix them? Instead, it's faster to say, what are the strengths? What's going well? How do we use those to ensure safety here? How do we limit those safety concerns by building on your strengths? The third feature is that these services are time limited. Families First of Michigan is a 28-day program, meaning we come in, there is some sort of concern, could be child abuse was identified from physical punishment. We say, okay, we got to teach new ways of disciplining kids that are safe. And we're going to teach those things. And if you can demonstrate in a month that you've been able to do it effectively and the kids are safe, we're going to get out of your hair and make sure you can go and do the things you need to do as a family. We're going to find supports within the community or your own family. Other programs can last up to 4 to 6 months. In fact, I was talking to a colleague, Simona, just before I came over here in our Lansing office, and she said, I'm making a recommendation today. I've been working with the family for 6 months. They've been reunified. The kids were in foster care and came and said, we just need to get out of their hair now. They've done all the work. They need to move on. So these time-limited aspects of the services are really important. Next, they're teaching focused, meaning often when we're working with the families, there are just certain skills that they may not have. Even skills in like how do we keep a home clean, make sure there's not environmental neglect, skills I know that I have deficits in, like budgeting, of like, okay, there's a lot of different things coming in. Let's help you make sure we have these payments so we're not at a place of we're losing power and you're losing power and heat and then it's not safe for your kids. And we teach those skills. Families are empowered and move forward. And the most important feature, I think, is that they're successful. Over 90% of the families we work with, at the end, the kids are still at home. They've not been removed and placed into foster care, which means this is keeping kids not only from the cost of foster care to all of us, of taking kids out of the home and placing them into a foster home or a relative home, but also the cost of trauma, the cost of those kids having the experience of, I've had to be removed from a parent. And as a state, talking about that idea of, we have kids who are placed in out-of-home placement, like foster care or residential services, both which Wellspring also provides. But as a state, we currently spend 5 times more on the children outside of the family home in foster care and residential services than we do on the kids who are with their parents in these family preservation supports. And PCG did a cost analysis last year in kind of it ended in the summer of 2024, and it found we're funding these services at about 45% of the actual cost. And so we're asking for consideration in closing the $11.5 million funding gap in that. Knowing, again, this is funding to bring services, like community-based services, bring workers into families' homes in their own community, and to keep kids with their parents. Vitally important. It's not only a cost savings, but it's also like a community-based program. Unfortunately, not every family, that's gonna work. And I told you I was at the office earlier talking to staff, and I had another staff member who, she had a much worse experience working with her family. Things weren't going well. She went to a visit one day, and a baby, the baby typically didn't have a shirt on. This is fine, a few months, a couple months old. All of a sudden, had long sleeves on. She started that, got her a little curious, and looks, and there's burns on this young baby. Assessed the situation, made some calls. These children, it had spiraled out of control and was not safe. And so thank goodness we had a family preservation program there to assess it, but also thank goodness we had foster care, because at this time, it's not safe for those kids to be in that environment. And they were removed, placed in foster care. And as you probably know, foster care, about 55% of foster care is done by community-based private agencies like us. And as of Friday, on May 16th, there were 9,977 children placed in foster care in the state of Michigan. We keep hovering at about that 10,000 number, and somehow I think feel a little victory when we get under 10,000, but still, like 9,977 kids. The homes were not in a condition, or the parents weren't able to provide service or protection, or like they were being abused in ways that were harmful, and they needed the resources of foster care. And so I just want to talk about the goal with foster care, of course, is to ensure we work with those parents to deal with whatever those needs were. The primary goal is, let's get the kids back in what we call reunification. Next month, we're going to celebrate Reunification Month, and we'll have reunification days and beautiful stories of parents where the kids were removed and we were able to have them come back. And so I'm going a little long here, but I get passionate talking about this stuff. And once I said the number, it's striking to me of, these are actual kids in homes right now who are going to bed not seeing their parents, right? And being tucked in sometimes by strangers tonight. And so what we're asking for is to ensure in those situations that we have the right kind of funding to ensure those kids get the needs they have, and we have foster parents that are available to take care of them. We've talked last year about a funding gap, and again, we recommended last year that we'd have a $70 per day per diem. We were able to move it from $55.20 to $60.20 last year, which we thank you for. But that's still a considerable way off from what we are saying, like showing we need. And so we're asking for consideration to our budget recommendations there. So I'll move to closing here. I'm proud to work at an organization that's existed since the 1800s, founded to meet the urgent needs of children and the elderly in our local communities. Today, Wellspring continues that legacy by transforming lives and strengthening families every day, like I was talking about our workers. But we can't do it alone. Your support is vital. Join us in creating a future where every family has the opportunity to grow, thrive, and build a brighter tomorrow. Together, we can make a lasting change. Thank you.